Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna be smoking some Dino ribs. Let's get smoking. So before we go ahead and start smoking these Dino ribs, I wanted to take you through my setup. I do have a cold smoker attachment, always recommended. It does pump out a lot of smoke. I have a tray at the bottom that's gonna catch all the fat. It's gonna be dripping off. I have a water pan. In this water pan I put a ratio of 50-50 water and apple cider vinegar, and that's pretty much it. Alright, so what you guys see in front of you is a slab of Dino ribs. Now these ribs, I went over and I got them at my local meat market, so it's already been seasoned for me and everything. If you do buy some of these and you're gonna season them yourself, you can always go with the traditional 50-50 ratio of salt and pepper. That's always been a good one. Or you can just select your favorite rib rub, so you can put these on these bad boys. If you have the time, I would season them, or I would put this rub overnight, and then the following day you go ahead and start smoking them. But I'm going to open these up to see what these guys look like. These guys are not a cheap option. They're pretty expensive. What you see here is about maybe 3 or 4 ribs, which is the equivalent to what I would have maybe bought a 12 to 14 pound brisket. But I think they're well worth the money. So I'm gonna pull these out. Alright, so the first thing I want you guys to notice is the thickness of these ribs, and these haven't even been cooked. When these guys get smoked, they're gonna shrink and they're gonna expose the bone. But we're starting off with a pretty decent thickness right here. The bone is down here. The meat is this is all meat. It's at least an inch of uncooked meat, which is a pretty good sign for these Dino ribs. The next thing I wanted to let you guys know is these ribs also have a membrane in the back. You would usually take this off, but because there's no meat here in the back, we're actually going to leave this membrane on so that it helps to keep the ribs together. If you do end up taking this one off, your bones are pretty much going to be falling off to begin with, because you don't allow that to keep it there. I showed you guys my setup. I'm going to stick them in my smoker, and then I'm going to take you through those steps. So the way you want to set these ribs up is you want to cook them at about, or smoke them at about 275. And at this point, if you do not have a cold smoker attachment, what you want to do is you want to put in your chips so it can start to smoke. But I've already started my chips with my cold smoker attachment. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to load these puppies up. Now when you're going to load these ribs up onto your smoker, I highly recommend that you load them up with the membrane on the bottom, the bones facing down. This will allow for the bone to kind of protect your meat as it's cooking, and it doesn't overcook it. But that's about it. We're going to leave them in here for about 3 hours. It does take a long time. This is a long con, all right? We're going to do a 3-hour smoke like this. And after about 3 hours, if I like the color, then we're going to go to the next step. But for right now, it's at 275 for at least 3 hours for these Dino ribs. We're going to close this up. As you can see, my smoke is already starting there. We're going to close this up and get these bad boys going. So while these Dino ribs are getting ready, there's a couple of things that you would want to do to prepare yourself for the next step. The first thing would be to actually create the marinade that you're going to end up putting on the next step. What I like to do is I like to use barbecue sauce and apple juice. These are the two ingredients that I use for my I guess you call it a marinade, and it's not a rocket science. It's 3-to-1 ratio. Well, it depends on you. If you like your marinade a little bit thicker, you would go 2-to-1. If you like it a little bit more runny, just to be able to have it ready to go, it'll be 3-to-1. So I mean, honestly, there is a ratio, but I would just put a little bit of your barbecue sauce in there, and add a little bit of apple juice, and you mix it up. There you go. That's the consistency I want to see. It's not thick and it's not super runny. It's kind of clingy to the fork a little bit. So this, you want to set this and set it aside because we are going to use this in the next step. Something else you want to set up while your dino ribs are going is your mixture for the spritz that you're going to be putting on your ribs. All this will make sense later, just bear with me, right? So what I have here is a spray bottle, and I've already added some water. I didn't fill it up all the way because I'm not going to need a lot of it. But this one, what you do, this ratio is about 50-50. So for this one, you have about 10 ounces of water, and I'm going to add some apple cider vinegar to it. And again, it's not an exact measurement, but it's a rough estimate of you know what, I'm going to pour some of this out because I'm not going to need this much. I'm going to go with 6 ounces. Alright, so I have about 6 ounces now. So I'm just going to add about another 6, roughly. And there you go. That's going to be your spritz concoction here. Alright. So I've been about an hour into the cook. Just keep in mind, especially with these electric smokers, you have to always continue to be adding chips. So it's been 2 hours since I put these bad boys in the smoker. Just wanted to give you a good, a real quick checkpoint here, just to see what they're starting to look like. Remember, we've been doing these dino ribs at 275 in the smoker, and this is 2 hours into it. All right. Oh, shit, what a smoke. Okay. Alright, so as you can see, it's starting to get some nice little color to it. Still got about another hour to go. Starting to see some receding meat. Starting to expose the bone a little bit. We're just going to continue smoking this. At least about another hour, but look at that color, man. That's looking really nice. I'm going to give it about another hour before we go to the next step. So we're back. We're at about 2 hours and about 30 minutes. At this time, I'm going to open it up to see what it looks like. My dino ribs. Oh yeah, we got some bone exposure over here. Oh look, maybe there's a fourth one in there. We'll just have to see. Man, I really like the color on these. Once you get your dino ribs, look at how thick those things are getting. Once you get these dino ribs at about the color that you want, the next step in the process is going to be with that apple cider and water mixture that I showed you guys earlier in the video. So what you're going to do for about the next 30 minutes, more or less, is get that 50-50 concoction of water and apple cider vinegar and just kind of spritz it. Alright guys, so my dino ribs have been in the smoker roughly about 4 hours. I originally said it should take about 3 hours, but I wanted to give it a little bit more of that color, that nice golden color to it. So I left it in there a little bit longer, about another hour. During the last hour I did spritz it a couple of times with that water and apple cider vinegar mixture. But as you can see, I'm very happy with what it looks like right now. So I'm about to take these out so that I can show you the next step. Oh, look at them babies. So a very, very good sign here, guys. If you want to like take a real close look at this, a lot of receding going on this side, some receding going on this side. This is perfect. What you want to do at this point is you actually want to get a piece of heavy duty and extra wide foil paper. You want to set your ribs here. Now this is important. You do want to try to keep the ribs with the bone facing down. You still want that bone facing down. I have my foil paper set up here. I am going to smother. If you guys remember from earlier on, this is the concoction that we did, which was apple juice and barbecue sauce. All right, has a nice little consistency to it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to apply the marinade on top of the ribs. Next thing is you want to wrap these. The number you're looking for is 200. Once your ribs hit 200, then you can pull them out. This next step in the process, there is really no time frame. It does usually take about a couple of hours, 2 maybe 3 hours, depending on how thick your ribs are, and depending on the temperature that you would like to smoke, because you can go from 275 to about 300. So now I'm going to actually insert my meat probe right in the middle of where the meat is supposed to be. Right now I'm going to stick these babies back into my smoker. What I'm doing right now is I have my meat probe stuck in here. I am going to thread this one and make it go out through my damper on top. Close this down, lock it down. We're still cooking at 275. So I have it preset to go off at 200 right now. The internal temperature of my ribs is about 180, 181. So at this point, I'm just gonna give it some time, let it hit the 200, and then we'll go to the next step. We're almost there, we're in the home stretch. So it's been a couple of hours since we wrapped these Dino ribs in the foil, and I set my preset at 200. So we can switch this. There it is. I set my preset at 200, and right now the ribs are hitting already 205. This is a perfect time to pull them out. The last thing you're going to do on this step before you can cut up and eat them is actually let them rest. Kind of like a brisket, you do need to let it rest. You can't just cut into them right now. Give them about 30 minutes to an hour. So you want to get yourself a nice cooler to be able to put these in there. That's what I'm going to do next. So the total cook time for these ribs was a little over 5.5 hours. Depends on your meat, depends on the size, depends on your temperature. You might it might be take a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, but it did go over about 5.5 hours. So the last thing is we're going to put these in a cooler to let them rest. So now that you have it in your cooler, the last step is to let it rest an hour before you can cut into them. You don't want to go ahead and fully close your cooler. You want to give it a little bit of room for it to actually, so it doesn't cook all the way through. So you want to leave it open just a little bit, just enough so that some of the air escapes, but is not too insulated. So we're going to come back after about an hour and let's see how these puppies come out. We're almost there. Alright guys, so we're at that the final reveal of the actual Dino ribs smoke. As you can see while I was taking it out, this bone just kind of fell off, so I'm just going to put it off to the side. It did end up being a 3-bone or a 3-rib rack. Just give you a little 360 here. I'm digging the color. I'm digging the thickness. This looks good, guys. Well, I gotta see, right? We gotta cut into it to see what it's gonna look like. So because we have our receding, I'm gonna cut it this way. Because we have our receding meat coming from this way, I think the easiest way to cut would be cutting down this way. All you have to do is kind of stay in between the bones right here in the middle, and just kind of slowly cut in. See what that looks like. Oh. Look at that. See if I can get some of this on camera. Bring it up. Kind of squish it down. Oh yeah. Now the only thing left here is to actually, man, this thing looks good. The only thing left here is to actually, and it smells really good, is to actually taste it to see what it tastes like, because that's really the main thing. Before I taste it, this is one of the reasons I said do not take the membrane off, because this membrane here, it's actually holding the meat on the bone. I don't know if you can see it right about there. That's actually the membrane holding it, so do not remove that membrane. It's actually going to help you, but let me see. Let me see. Oh, my mouth is watering. Oh, damn. Mmm. Oh, wow. I gotta get a second opinion here. Guys, I'm a big guy. I can eat. I've taken 2 big pieces of this dino rib and I haven't even tickled it. This has been, give me a minute. Wow, that is good. That's some good stuff. Look at that, coming off. This has been the Smoking Beard, showing you how to smoke dino ribs. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. These guys are worth it, anywhere between 5 to 7 hours, but you're gonna love the end result. Once again, thanks for watching. Now I'm gonna go to town on this bad boy. See you guys on the flip side. Look at that, a little smoke ring.